All right. Good morning and welcome. Figured I wanted to jump on and do one of these before the work day. And I actually have a doctor's appointment this morning, so technically I'll work for a little bit, then be off to the doctor. So it's all good. Happy Friday, everyone. Oh, I tell you, people, willful ignorance. That's kind of a thing. All right, let's see. I gotta get tuft bricks, cap off that. I'm slowly extending the farm, but as you can see in a spot, I think this maybe is it. But I started to break through the ceiling, I think. If you look right here. Or maybe not, but I'm about to. Like, I'm really close. Like, if I continue to extend the farm out that way, I'll probably start hitting air. But, anyways, no. So, as far as I'm starting to argue on Facebook again, which I really try not to. I don't like arguing on Facebook because there's my face. I actually do share information of like what my life is like and stuff like that on there. Like, not a lot still. You got to be careful of open source intelligence, but arguing with one guy right now because he's staunchly opposed to the idea that that climate change is the thing, and it gets tired. Like, I talked to a Harvard professor that teaches climate science. Like, it's his whole career, his focus. He's very in tune with what's said for it, what's said against it, like what the evidence is for, yes, burning fossil fuels does this, this, and this, or it's not as serious as this, and this. I mean, I get it. There's exaggerations, there's spinning the truth, there's focusing on certain aspects and ignoring other aspects. But like when 97, I think it is, or even 99% of the world's scientists that study this type of thing, like, that's pretty unanimous. Like, science doesn't usually get that high of an agreement rate. But like all the people that looked at it, I'd have to find the article too, because again, the information is only as strong as the article. So I suppose there could be fallacies, biases, stuff like that. Wait, where did I put all the tough? I see some there. Don't I have like a stack just sitting somewhere? And I even started putting stuff up here. All right, let's go check the other storage, or I guess I'll have to go digging. But anyways, no, and I guess what needs to happen, since we're on the kick of the new era, like, action, what do we do? Like, how do we fix this stuff? Well, really, it's patiently debating with people and bringing facts, bringing logic, bringing studies, bringing articles. Like, and I started to do some of that. It's a daunting task because these things are constantly changing, but making Google Docs and stuff like that, basically highlighting like what we know, or at least what we've read, what we've seen, what we can prove, disprove, like even the degree of how certain we are of something. Like, we should have like a shaky meter, like, how accurate does this seem? Or, and a lot of scientific studies do exactly that. The problem is, like, they say, like, they try to point out their own biases and flaws and be like, well, this could be this or it could be that. It's not necessarily this, but it could be, or something like that. They bring a bunch of just evidence and information. Like, the whole point of being published is you did something that's worth publishing and that people can look at, read, disagree or agree, or ask questions. But what we get is social media where, and a lot of people, we've proven this, there's been election interference from Russian actors on social media. People like paid to go argue with people online. A lot of people don't even have to be paid. They just have to be devoted to the Republican Party and be like, "Nuh-uh," like, and they will fight tooth and nail to try to like argue about this stuff. Like this guy right now, he's like, he's saying that most of the ice on North America cleared during this certain age, which may be true, but that doesn't take away from the fact, like, it's worth looking into. And that's one of the things is, like, I'm not a professional at this, but if I'm going to debate it, I should at least come equipped with some information. Be like, well, actually, this is what this person said, and this is why they said it. Like, stuff like that. Not like, because I understand the fear that people might pay for studies to be done to look good and support what they need. Like, that makes a lot of sense. That's human nature. However, there's this article from NPR, and that's why the guy did the clown emoji, and that automatically just sets me off. Like, people they want to start debating something and they got to call the other person a clown. Like, oh, you're such a clown. Like, I'm so cool because I don't follow the mainstream. I'm not a sheep. I'm not a lemming or whatever. And all of these things, which, yeah, those are arguments that they do elicit, certain reactions. And the people that are spreading this initially, Republican leaders, like they do this because, okay, so it's a lot like that Lorax guy. He's like, let it die, let it shrivel up and die because he wants to sell air. One, two, three, four. One, two, three, four. That's his business. So he wants to continue to sell air. And that's what a lot of these things, like oil companies, they're so entrenched in this economy that oil and gas and all that. And I get it. I understand. That's a lot of jobs. That's a lot of scary situation. Like if we switch over like completely away from fossil fuels, that's going to leave a lot of infrastructure useless. Like, I mean, if you completely revamp stuff, that's also what's kind of annoying, like going into wind and solar and all the geothermal and all these different types of energy because like, yeah, they're all like okay and they all come with their own pros and cons. I mean, nothing's perfect, but one thing is true though, is that if you sit in a garage with a car running, a gas powered car, you'll die. Like, it's toxic to breathe the fumes. Like, even at the basic level, gas bad from that. Like, and what is the Earth's atmosphere but one giant garage? Because air doesn't leave Earth's gravitational pull. It doesn't leave the atmosphere. It just stays circling around. And so everything we burn is going to float up and float around, and someone's going to be breathing it. So, and maybe it would have been okay if it was just like one city full of cars, but you got to remember, like, every city on Earth has tons of cars driving around 24/7. Like, humanity, the way that humans function, like the way that we're trying to do things, like, there's always people driving around, and it's a thing. And I don't know. And it's just like arguing with these people. I found another group on Facebook that used to be the psychiatric ward. And one of my uncles, who, it's kind of funny because he argues a lot of democratic stuff, but then he does some stuff. He's like, it's interesting because he comes from a very redneck and Republican type area that, like, some more simple farming communities, like, you know, and I also understand that reading some of these science papers that are published, like it makes your eyes cross. Like, there's so much technical jargon that doesn't need to be there. Like, it needs to just have a summary, and then for those that want to continue reading on, and they even do that. But the summaries I've found on some of these articles, especially like the drug and alcohol addiction database, like, a bunch of studies done on that stuff. You look at it and it's just like, oh my gosh, there's so much going on here, and so much. Even the summary is just way too complicated and using too big of words, and I have a college degree. Like, if I really had to sit down and figure it out, sure, but I'm not trying to sit down and figure out what you mean by it. Just be like, this good, this bad, here's the numbers, done. Like, that's all we need. Like, we need summaries of all this stuff, and then to be able to explain it. So I guess the biggest thing is, I just want to come on here and say, communication is the focus now. Like, how do you communicate to somebody that doesn't have the time or the concern to really look into stuff like that? To just simply say, this is this and this is that. So, and this guy, like, his last message, conflating CO2 to toxins. Like, what does that even mean? Like, if you sit in the garage with a car running, a gas-powered car, you die. I don't care whether it's the CO2, the carbon monoxide, because CO2 is carbon dioxide. The two oxygens die. Mono is one, so the carbon emissions. So it's carbon monoxide, which we have carbon monoxide detectors in our houses. Anytime there's a gas appliance in the house, you're supposed to have a carbon monoxide detector. Why? Because if there's a gas leak, the carbon monoxide will kill you. It doesn't matter if it's carbon dioxide when it's burned and mixed with air. Like, it's just because that's a chemical reaction that burns the fossil fuels, which is mostly carbon based, and then it mixes with the oxygen in the air and it becomes carbon dioxide. I don't even know if that's true, honestly. Like, I'm a computer scientist. My focus in science is computers, and really, I'm not even a studying computer scientist anymore. I got my education. Now I work in the field, like fixing tech problems and, keeping up with technology and making sure that I understand, like, that whole thing. So, and at the end of the day, this guy that I'm arguing with, who knows what he does, but most likely he's not a climate scientist. But he gets on here and starts arguing against things. And yeah, and it's like, I guess I'll just have to find the article and make sure it's not from NPR and it's not from any of the liberal news that's fake news and all that. And see, that's the other biggest thing is like, yes, I get it that a lot of news is biased and swayed, and but even if you read like the full article on a lot of these things, they'll poke holes in their own story because they're trying to get ahead of people calling BS and being like, no, this is why that's totally like not true or whatever, like whatever the situation may be. And it's just because they know they're going to catch backlash for it. So anything that they print or publish or send out, like if they want it to be an official article or something, they need to try to poke their own holes in it. And it's just, it's insane. Like, we are at that point where greed really is allowing all this stuff. Like, people want to see that money come in. They want the economy to go this and that. And like, and why? What for? Like all this scare tactic around, and really it's because rich people don't want to lose their riches. That's the main thing. It's like the wealthy people enjoy being wealthy and they want to continue to be more wealthy and they want to spread that wealth to their families or the people that they designate. And then that in itself gives them power. And so then they enjoy that and they get to experience things like, okay, like, well, let's talk about Elon Musk here. So I actually kind of like the guy sometimes. I mean, he did do some good things, like buying Twitter, making it X, and forcing people outside of their echo chambers was good. It was a good start, but now he's posting stuff like, Reagan was such a good president. He wasn't. He was a terrible president. Like, Reaganomics was supposed to fix the country. All it did was it kept wealthy people wealthy. It made them even wealthier, and it made everybody else suffer. Like 97% of the country suffered from these policies, while the 1% to 3% vastly improved, and they're doing fine. So they're like, yeah, let's keep this going. That's great. I like this. And where meanwhile the rest of us are like, man, why is everything so expensive? Why do things suck so bad? Oh wait, it's because rich people aren't paying what they used to pay. Like we used to have these budgets based over, taxing the wealthy. It was a 70% to 90% income tax on the highest earners. And even that, I get it. We could get rid of income tax. Let's start doing inheritance tax. Like the people that, I mean, unless you donate a certain amount or you can prove that you're not just hoarding your wealth like a dragon and then making everybody else's lives miserable just because the money's not flowing as it's supposed to. It's supposed to come in, come out, easy come, easy go. Whereas a lot of these people, I don't know. I mean, and I thought it was kind of interesting how Trump don't. Oh wait, sorry. Back to the Reagan thing. So Reagan imported most of the cocaine. We know that now. He didn't do it on purpose. He wasn't like, meh, I'm going to bring in a bunch of cocaine to the country. But because of American Made, that movie with Tom Cruise, and I keep telling people American Made with Tom Cruise because it's like, oh, it's just some stupid documentary or something. It's like, no, it's a major motion picture with a very famous person, and that it's a documentary from one of the pilots that imported the cocaine. Like, because they were supposed to be spying on communists. Like, there was a big scare for communism. And so, like, a bunch of people, they wanted action. They needed action on that. So Reagan's administration, maybe it wasn't him directly, but under his watch, a bunch of pilots were recruited, not a bunch, just a handful of pilots were recruited to spy on communists. Well, they linked up with the cartels down there, and they started bringing a bunch of cocaine back with them. Okay, so it was an accident. It wasn't an intended consequence. However, they knew about it. They completely knew about it. And what did Reagan do? He got on TV with his wife, and he had his wife be a total flaming bimbo, just say no to drugs and alcohol. And then they expanded the war on drugs. They really amplified it. Like Nixon started it because he knew. And we have evidence of this. One of his top aides said, yeah, that's why we did it. It was because the hippies and the Black Panthers, they weren't our voters. And so we wanted to make their lives harder. And so we put out a bunch of propaganda that lied about the dangers of weed. And we know now that weed is pretty harmless. Like cannabis, marijuana, weed, whatever you want to call it. It's pretty harmless. It always has been. Ever since the 70s in Woodstock, we knew that drugs weren't the issue. Society was the issue. And using drugs isn't great. I'm not saying go out and go do drugs, but like, it's more dangerous to get caught with any of that than the actual drug itself. You will be put in prison. You will not get a good job for 10 years. You'll get a felony. You'll be considered a criminal. Like, all of this just because you were a little curious about, well, what does this do? Like, oh, this feels good. Let's keep doing it. And then someone needs to come along and say, oh, well, yeah, it might feel good, but here are the dangers or the side effects and stuff. And it's like if people would just like straight up with that about that and let consenting adults do what they want, like as long as they're not hurting other people or getting other people hooked on them, okay. But but instead, what we do is even if you get caught, and I have a story about this too. One of my friends, he's ex-military. He was an ex-CB, so he was part of the Navy that would go and colonize places in war zones. Like he was kind of like Marines. I don't know. Marines are usually thought of as the tip of the spear, but anyways, this is a guy who built constructed structures in war zones, getting shot at for his country. He would go and colonize things, and he got caught with weed. He was walking, not driving, because he was being responsible. He had a little weed in his pocket, and a cop stopped him, and they got to talking. And next thing you know, the cop's like, "Well, you do have marijuana." He searched him. And I don't even know the rest of the story, why he searched him and stuff like that. But basically, maybe he was being a little belligerent. I don't know. But like the cops searched him, found weed, ticketed him. He got in trouble for having weed. And this is a military person, like someone that served their country. You know, Then I have my own story. So I got caught with a marijuana pipe up in Chaffee County, and I got a $30 ticket. It was still annoying, but it was much better than what it could have been. And maybe I'll tell that on a subscription-based, like, secret. I'm just kidding. I don't want to get anyone in trouble. That's why I don't really tell that story, because technically I should have gotten a lot worse. But since, yeah, and we'll leave it at that. But just these things, like the war on weed, it's so dumb. I mean, and the other drugs, yeah, it's a case-by-case basis. Like things like meth and heroin are really, really bad for you. They're just bad. Hold on. They're very addicting. They'll make you, like, they're so addicting that you might even start stealing from friends and family to pay for getting more. And why do you have to pay so much to get it? Well, because it's so illegal and so hard to do that only the people that might want to make money off of it are going to be the ones selling it or having it. And then they're going through a risk too. So in their mind, they can justify, oh, let's raise the price on this. So it's very expensive to get this very addicting thing. So I don't know. I mean, and again, society is more dangerous than the actual drug itself. Like the drug itself, not that bad. I mean, especially when done in moderation, or if people are allowed to see it and then they go through the withdrawals, and like as long as they can abstain from it for like more than a few days and then go and have something else take place of it, then they're fine. Like tons of people have gone through rehab like that. Like, once they find something else to entertain them or occupy their time, then it's like, oh, yeah, no, I don't need any of this garbage. Like, or you grow out of it too. That's the other thing, is a lot of people will just grow out of wanting to drink or use drugs. But, and it's different for people that are wealthy, like the whole Hunter Biden thing. He was on camera smoking crack with prostitute, or with ladies of the evening, call girls. And I hate calling them that too. It's like women doing adult sex work. There you go. We should refer to it that way. But basically, he had money. He could go get a hotel room. So he could go consume his drugs, his narcotics, be comfortable, even have a couple of ladies with him, have enough to share, have money to go around, and then he was fine. He's not some toothless crack addict in a homeless shelter. Like, he had money. He was okay. And he also didn't get busted by the police because he was in a hotel room, not causing a nuisance to people. Now, the people that can't afford that, like normal people, and then they can't go use drugs in their parents' house because their parents would be like, what are you doing? You can't use these drugs. So instead, they're out in the streets using them, or hanging out in sketchy situations, hanging out with sketchy people, fighting and all this, and like living in basically hell on earth, all because they don't have money. They don't have the option of, oh, wait, I could just go get a hotel room for the night and go have a party and then be fine the next day and go back to work. Like, normal people could do that if they had a hotel room. Like, and that's just it. Like, people don't understand these. They just see, oh, he's weak, or he's evil, or she's weak, she's evil because she's using drugs. No, she got caught because she didn't have money to go get a hotel room and just sleep it off. Like, or the luxury of being able to leave your job for a while and take a vacation. Like, people that are making minimum wage and are hourly, they don't get vacation. You can take time off if you want, but you're not getting paid. So you really can't take time off if you want to continue to pay your rent, pay your bills, especially if you have a college degree and education bills. Like, I'll still have my student loans for years from now. And that's something I got to live with. Yeah, I'm making more money now, but I got to turn around and pay this enormous amount for the education that I got just to get the job to pay the good money, because it's a standard. It doesn't matter if it's getting better, People are a little more self-taught nowadays, but oof. Actually, I guess I started a little late. I'm gonna have to cut this short because I gotta go do some work things here in like 3 minutes and then go to the doctor's. But so that's where I'm at now. I mean, I'm debating with people. I've been doing it for a while and just trying to figure out like, okay, what do you tell people like this that are so determined to ignore what you tell them here for whatever reason? Either it's too complicated, too biased, or whatever the reason may be, or even if it just seems that way, because perception is reality. When you're trying to convince somebody of something and they're already like predetermined to not believe you because they don't want to believe you. It's comfortable to believe Trump. It's comfortable to believe these Republicans that, oh, they've got such simple answers. Oh, it's just fake. You don't really need to worry about that. Let me worry about that for you. And then they won't do anything about it except for continue to cut taxes, cut regulations, continue to poison the earth, like all of these things. And it's just, or, and maybe not. I mean, there's definitely corruption on the other side too. Like I worked for a wind turbine factory that built wind turbine blades, and yeah, it was kind of harmful and dangerous to work there. Like potentially, if you didn't follow procedure and use protective personal equipment or PPE, like yeah, it could be dangerous. Like you're working with things, but everything can be dangerous. Like working with toner with a printer. So any office you work in, if you change the toner and you breathe that in, that could slice up your lungs. Like, you know, it's like anything could be dangerous if you really like, but I mean, I don't know. I think ultimately nuclear is the way to go. And I think once we figure out a way to make it completely safe, or at least like quell the rumors, because that's one thing that I learned in my own bias. Like I was talking to some people and they pointed out that they gave an article about how Chernobyl was only about as dangerous as, oh, whoops. That's going to start fading. I forgot I didn't put the water down yet. Oh, no, good, but I need to put the bucket there. Okay. So, oh, whoops, and I just covered that up. So, anyways, that's what's next is to build a Google Doc or multiple Google Docs and just highlight, and that's what I've been doing. I need to work on it more, is just to highlight why things are the way they are. Like articles, examples, in as about as simple as terms as possible. You know. Ugh. Yeah, so anyways, and then also looking at their sources too. So the guy did send a YouTube video, so I'll look at it, but, you know, and then I'll form an opinion later when I have some time, but, you know, or maybe find some facts that either disprove or argue with it and then come but return to him with that. Because as it is now, we're just name calling, and not even name calling a lot, but he likes to sign his clown thing. So, anyways. After this, I gotta sign off and go to work and then go to the doctor. So ta-ta for now. I will see you all in the next one. We'll just do a short one this morning. All right, see you then.